Good evening, everyone. How are y'all doing? I am Rabina Rastaban, aka the Realist Astrologer, and tonight I will be talking about the dark-sided Capricorn male. Now, the dark-sided Capricorn male, first off, he can be very negative, just give off a lot of negative energy. You get to a point where you don't want to take him anywhere because he tends to put a dark cloud over a joyous occasion or a happy situation. He tends to be very pessimistic, always looking at the glass as half empty instead of half full. Another negative Capricorn trait is they can be extremely greedy, and not really in terms of food or possessions, but more so just in terms of money. And that's because the dark-sided Capricorn is motivated by fear. And it's basically fear of poverty, fear of a loss of status, and just fear of not being able to be seen as someone who is authoritative and someone who's in control. Another dark-sided Capricorn trait is that they can be extreme cheapskate. So I mentioned that about Cancer being an extreme cheapskate, but Capricorn even more so. So one of the signs you could tell you're dealing with a dark-sided Capricorn male is if, it's your first date or maybe your second date, and he's taking you to a really, cheesy restaurant, or, he's more concerned with his budget than actually impressing you. So that's one of the ways you could tell that you may be dealing with a dark-sided Capricorn. Another dark-sided Capricorn trait is that they can be rather depressed, and then that goes with them harboring a lot of negative energy. So expect the dark-sided Capricorn male to just go into these periods of depression, and it might actually be long in duration at times, and it may seem like he'll just fall off the face of the earth. You may not hear from him, or if you do communicate with him, he'll just, again, put a damper on the situation. He'll, put a sour mood in the atmosphere, and his depression will start to infect you. So Capricorn is the sign of depression. So they really have a hard time pulling themselves out of that funk when they, allow themselves to sink deep into it. They also have a tendency to punish themselves and deprive themselves of things that, a normal person would just consider like a normal pleasure or pastime. And again, that goes with them harboring that negative energy. Capricorn is a natural punisher and a natural authoritarian, and a lot of times they're hardest on themselves. But the dark-sided Capricorn, he'll be hard on everybody. Also, what goes along with that, him being hard on people, is the dark-sided Capricorn can be a elitist. So he tends to look down on other people, people that are at a lower station or status than he is. However, he believes in this whole hierarchy thing. So if it's somebody that he admires or really respects, or someone who is in a position where he's trying to be, then he'll become a big brown noser, and he'll be kissing the person's ass. So a lot of times he might do that with his boss if he's in a job where, it's aligned with his career path or career goals. So expect him to be a big time brown noser, but at the same time, he'll turn around and disrespect you. Another thing is the dark-sided Capricorn, and Capricorns in general, they tend to operate according to this prioritization whole approach. So if you're not high on their list of priorities, then expect to be ignored a lot. Expect to be basically cast aside. Expect to not be taken seriously unless you really need something that's important. So a lot of times, to get a dark-sided Capricorn's attention, you have to make it seem like it's very important, or you have to make it seem like you desperately need them, because they love to feel that they are needed. Also, another thing is the dark-sided Capricorn can be extremely critical, always picking you apart, always focusing on what's wrong instead of what's right. They'll criticize your money management skills. They'll criticize the way you cook. They'll criticize the way you clean. They'll criticize just basically everything about your life, and mainly because they continuously criticize themselves, because they are forever in a state of dissatisfaction when it comes to their own lives. Another thing is they can be very unemotional and unfeeling, just like the dark-sided Aquarius. So Don't expect them to really be sympathetic when you go through some type of plight or some type of issue or challenge. If you open up your heart to them, a lot of times they'll respond basically with, it'll seem like you're talking to a brick wall. So after a while, you'll start keeping things to yourself because their responses are so negative and so unemotional that you start to, figure that it's not even worth your time or energy or your hurt feelings. Another dark-sided aspect of Capricorn is that they can punish you by withholding sex or by being very insensitive during sex. So again, like I said, they're big time punishers. So if the two of you aren't seeing eye to eye, or if you're in a disagreement, or if you've done something to piss them off, then they might withhold sex from you as as a form of punishment. Another thing about the dark side Capricorn, they can be workaholics because Capricorn is the sign of work and career. So there's a good chance that the dark-sided Capricorn will always be away from home, focusing on his career. He will place his career before family, before his wife or long-term partner, before his children. So it's all about work, career, security, acquisition, status with the dark-sided Capricorn. They're very materialistic. They have a hard time operating from the heart, or just being in touch with matters of the heart, because everything is on a materialistic level for them. So in the same vein as that, they could be very opportunistic. So the dark-sided Capricorn may not even want to deal with you unless there's something that he can gain out of the situation, or he may not be even interested in a conversation unless he's being complimented, or there's some way where he can act as an authority. So very opportunistic, to the point where the dark-sided Capricorn male might even sell his mother a bill of goods just to make some money. So when it comes to business and money, they can be very impersonal, and very just very tight-fisted. Always, always watching things to the last penny. Like I said before, hoarding money. Another dark-sided Capricorn trait is that they can be really bland when it comes to style and fashion. Oftentimes they prefer to wear uniforms where, when I say uniform, I basically mean like just a basic polo shirt and basic black slacks, and that deals with them Capricorn being dealing with the military. Capricorn, like Libra, is a militaristic sign. So they tend to, operate in terms of, military values. So when it comes to getting dressed, they want to be efficient. They want to be quick so they can go about their day and focus on work. So that goes along with their trouble with personal hygiene at times. So the dark-sided Capricorn, he might give off a funky smell sometimes because, number one, he's an earth sign, very earthy sign. And number two, like I said, they tend to take a militaristic approach to grooming and their daily habits. So they may not take the time to get inside all those crevices and things. So when you get intimate with a dark-sided Capricorn, you might actually start to smell, that ripe smell, or, some women like it because it's like a musky smell. But if you like a man to smell good, then a dark-sided Capricorn, that's another red flag. If he's always around, he smells like he's been outdoors all day. But let's say he was chilling at home all day and, he just took a shower, but he still smells kind of like, kind of ripe or whatever. That's one of the signs you could tell. Also, the dark-sided Capricorn, being so earthy, they tend to like low down, dirty, funky, sweaty sex. So the dark-sided Capricorn may not even want his woman to, really freshen up before they get intimate. But some people don't have a problem with that. But if you're one of those people that are really, concerned with cleanliness and, hygiene, then, you'll be turned off by the dark-sided Capricorn. So that's one of the ways you can, pick them out. I mentioned the thing about fear, I believe, or maybe I didn't. But basically, the dark-sided Capricorn is motivated by fear. Fear of being broke, fear of losing control, and also fear of people that are unfamiliar to him or that differ vastly from his whole program or train of thought. So in that vein, the dark-sided Capricorn can be rather prejudiced, or racist even. And that's because they tend to be very suspicious of outsiders or people who are not like them. So fear, fear, fear. The dark-sided Capricorn is motivated by fear. Another dark-sided Capricorn trait is they tend to be phony as hell in public. So the dark-sided Capricorn male out in public may differ greatly from the dark-sided Capricorn male that you are with at home. So when you're with him at home, you might see the depressed side. You might see the funky side of him, like I said, with the smell. You know, you might see the petty side where he's, counting every penny. You might see the side where he's picking you apart at every chance. But then when you get out in public with him, he puts on this upstanding persona, just like the dark-sided Taurus. And he projects this air of, being an authority or being an expert or, just being very professional or being, well-cultured. So they could be very phony and, it's actually comical seeing them out once you get close to them and seeing how they switch up. Let's see, did I forget anything? I mentioned that they look down on others. One thing about dark-sided Capricorn, or Capricorn in general, Capricorn is the sign of the devil, whether you believe in the devil or not. Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn, and Saturn is another name for Satan. So if you think about the myth or the ethos of Saturn/Satan, basically, a lot of times it can be intriguing, it can be appealing, because again, like I said, Saturn, Capricorn can deal with acquisition, it can deal with status, it can deal with acclaim, it can deal with materialism. So just think about, the whole proverbial selling your soul for fame. That's the epitome of Capricorn. The dark-sided Capricorn male wouldn't have any qualms about selling his soul for fame. So again, and that deals with the whole opportunistic energy that he's dealing with. So, and also the devil tends to take on a pleasing shape at times where, you're fooled. And once you're pulled in, that's when you're punished, and that's when you have to atone for your sins. So that's what the dark-sided Capricorn does. He projects this great image on the outside, but then when you get close to him, it's like he lays all these conditions on you and limitations, and basically he breaks you down until you feel like you're inadequate, or you feel, like you don't matter much, or you just feel like you're less than. So the dark-sided Capricorn male can do a really good job on your self-esteem and bring you down to their depressive level where, everything is just negative. So they're not really, outwardly violent or aggressive creatures. They may get violent in situations where, let's say the dark-sided Capricorn male had a wife and she went shopping and spent, too much money or whatever, and, his bank account wasn't looking right. He might lose it if that happens a bit too much. Also, if he feels a lack of control, or he might lash out as a result of fearing losing his woman, or just fearing a bad reputation. Capricorn is the sign of reputation. So Capricorns always want to project this good reputation. So again, like I said, they always want to portray this persona of being an upstanding individual. So yeah, phony as hell. I didn't mention that a lot of times the dark-sided Capricorn, him being a workaholic and him placing such a high value on work, oftentimes he expects his partner to work as hard as he does, even if he's making 3 times as much money. He may be like that, or he might be the ultra-traditional chauvinistic type of guy where he wants his woman to stay home and take care of the kids. And if she were to get a job and possibly start making money, or making money, as much money as him, he would really start to feel threatened, because Capricorn always has a need to feel like they're on top of something or someone. Think about the goat and how they like to climb up mountains and be at heights. So yeah, so that's basically it. I'm cutting it off now because it's starting to run past 15 minutes, but it makes sense because we're talking about Capricorn. Capricorn deals with long, drawn-out things. Another thing, the dark-sided Capricorn, like the dark-sided Cancer, will hold on to past relationships. So don't be surprised if there's this woman in their past that, you know, they're always pining for, or if given the chance, they would, you know, jump back into her arms. So they're like insane with, you know, dwelling on the past, not getting over past love. So the dark-sided Capricorn male, he may use you as a sounding board or even as a punching bag for his past relationship that had failed. So also think about that as well. But that's basically it. The dark-sided Capricorn is not too bad. The worst thing about him is he'll bring you down and into a deep depression, and that's where he tends to be. But other than that, they're not that harmless. So that's basically my take on the dark-sided Capricorn. If you feel that I missed anything, please feel free to comment. Please like and subscribe. I'll leave my website at the bottom in case you would like a reading. And the next video will be on the dark-sided Sagittarian male. My sun is in Sagittarius, so yeah, that should be very interesting. Peace and blessings.